The bridge of the Valtharian warship Imperial Glory hummed with quiet efficiency. Admiral Kai Min stood before the main viewer, watching the yellow star grow larger as they approached the system the locals called Sol. His scaled hands were clasped. Behind his back, purple eyes studying the readings that flowed across dozens of screens. "Admiral," called his aide, "we are detecting multiple energy signatures throughout this system. The third planet appears to be the primary population center." Kai Min nodded slowly. After 300 years of conquest, he could read a system's strength at a glance. This one was pathetic. The ships moving between planets used simple fusion drives. Their weapons appeared to be basic projectiles and primitive energy beams. Most telling of all, their largest vessels were barely half the size of a Valtharian escort ship. "Prepare a standard conquest assessment," Kai Min ordered. "This should be over quickly." The humans had been discovered by a Valtharian scout patrol 2 weeks ago. The Empire had catalogued them as Species Classification 7C, technologically primitive, militarily weak, possibly suitable for slavery or resource extraction. Looking at the data now, Kai Min wondered if even that assessment was too generous. 3 days later, something unexpected happened. A human ship approached the Valtharian fleet. It was small and sleek, painted white with blue markings. The vessel transmitted what appeared to be peaceful greetings in several languages, including broken Valtharian. "They want to talk," reported the communications officer. Kai Min almost laughed. In 3 centuries of expansion, no species had ever approached the Imperial fleet voluntarily except to surrender immediately. These humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Grant them safe passage to the Imperial Glory, he decided. Let us see what these creatures have to say. The human ship docked with surprising skill. Kai Min had expected clumsy maneuvering from such a primitive vessel, but the pilot handled the approach like a seasoned veteran. Through the airlock came 3 humans in simple blue uniforms. The leader was a middle-aged human male with graying hair and calm eyes. He bowed respectfully in the Valtharian manner, which surprised Kai Min. Few species bothered to learn Imperial customs. "I am Commander Dong Wu of the Earth Diplomatic Service," the human said in careful but clear Valtharian. "I come seeking peaceful relations between our peoples." Kai Min studied the human. Dong Wu stood straight but not aggressively. His 2 companions, a male and female human, remained silent and alert. They showed none of the fear that usually marked first contact with the Empire. "I am Admiral Kai Min of the Imperial Fleet," he replied. "Your species is unknown to us. Explain your presence in this region of space." "This is our home system," Dong Wu said simply. "We have lived here for thousands of years. We recently developed the ability to travel between stars. We mean no harm to your Empire." The human's directness was refreshing. Most species spent hours making elaborate speeches about their ancient cultures and peaceful intentions. This one got straight to the point. "Your technology appears limited," Kai Min observed. "Your ships are small, your weapons are basic, yet you approach an Imperial fleet without fear. Why?" Dongwu smiled slightly. "We believe that understanding between different peoples is always possible. Violence should be the last choice, not the first." Kai Min found himself almost respecting the human's attitude. Almost, but respect did not change the reality of Imperial policy. "Commander Dongwu," he said formally, "the Valtharian Empire has expanded across 47 star systems. We bring order, stability, and prosperity to all who accept our rule. Your species has 2 choices: submit willingly and become part of our empire, or resist and face the consequences." The female human stepped forward slightly. Dongwu held up a hand to stop her, then looked directly at Kai Min. "With respect, Admiral, we choose neither option." For a moment the bridge fell completely silent. Even the regular beeping of equipment seemed to pause. Kai Min felt his secondary heart skip a beat. In 300 years of conquest, no species had ever given that answer. "Explain," Kai Min said carefully. "We wish to remain independent," Dongwu said. "We are willing to establish trade relations, cultural exchange, even mutual defense agreements. But we will not submit to rule by others, and we will not attack you without cause. The female human, who Dongwu had introduced as Captain Subin, spoke for the first time. We hope you understand our position, Admiral. We seek friendship, not conquest. Kaiman looked at these three humans standing calmly on his bridge. They were either the bravest beings he had ever met, or they had no idea what they were facing. Given their primitive technology, he suspected the latter. Captain Subin, he said, you have seen our fleet. 37 warships, each capable of destroying your largest vessels. You understand that resistance is futile? Subin nodded. We understand that you believe resistance is futile. The subtle difference in her phrasing made Kaimin pause. Before he could respond, Dongwu spoke again. Admiral, we came here hoping to avoid conflict. Our peoples need not be enemies, but we will not surrender our freedom, regardless of the cost. Kaimin felt a strange mixture of admiration and pity. These humans had courage. He had to give them that. But courage without strength was just another word for foolishness. Very well, he said finally. I will relay your response to Emperor Veltar himself. He will make the final decision regarding your species. We are grateful for your consideration, Dongwu replied with another bow. As the humans prepared to leave, Kaimin found himself asking, Commander, do you truly believe your people can resist the Imperial fleet? Dongwu paused at the airlock and looked back. Admiral, we believe that freedom is worth any price. If we must fight, we will fight. If we must die, we will die as free beings. After the humans departed, Kaimin prepared his report for the Emperor. He described the humans' primitive technology, their small fleet, and their stubborn refusal to submit. He recommended a show of force to convince them of the futility of resistance. What he did not report was the nagging feeling that he had missed something important. The humans had shown no fear, no desperation, no pleading for mercy. They acted like people who had other options, not like a primitive species facing extinction. But looking at the tactical displays showing their weak ships and basic weapons, Kaimin dismissed his doubts. The humans would learn the price of defying the Empire soon enough. Emperor Veltar's response came within hours. Give the humans 30 standard days to reconsider. If they refuse again, destroy them. Kaimin transmitted the ultimatum to Earth and settled in to wait. He was confident that when the humans saw the Empire's true power, they would make the logical choice. He had no idea how wrong he was. 30 days passed without a word from Earth. Admiral Kaimin had expected the humans to spend those weeks in desperate preparation, or perhaps send frantic messages begging for mercy. Instead, there had been only silence. Emperor Veltar's orders were clear. Demonstrate Imperial power and crush human resistance quickly. The Emperor wanted this minor rebellion ended before other species got ideas about defying the Empire. Kai-Min assembled his third fleet at the edge of the Sol system. 200 warships arranged in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the distant sun's light. The sight had made dozens of species surrender without firing a shot. Surely the humans would see reason now. Admiral, reported his sensor. Officer, we are detecting human ships approaching our position. On the main screen, Kaimin saw what appeared to be the entire human fleet. 30 vessels, sleek and fast-looking, but pitifully small compared to Imperial warships. Their largest ship was barely a quarter the size of his flagship. Open a channel to the lead vessel, Kaimin ordered. The screen flickered, showing the bridge of a human ship. A man in a dark blue uniform looked back at him with calm eyes. He appeared to be in his 40s, with short black hair and the bearing of an experienced officer. I am Commodore Wanho of the Human Defense Force, the man said in fluent Valtharian. You are trespassing in human space, Admiral. Please withdraw your fleet. Kaimin almost admired the human's composure. Even facing impossible odds, Wanho showed no sign of fear or desperation. Commodore Wanho, I am Admiral Kaimin of the Imperial Third Fleet. Your government has rejected the Emperor's generous offer. You have one final chance to surrender before we demonstrate why resistance is futile. One host smiled slightly. Admiral, we appreciate your concern for our well-being. However, we must respectfully decline your offer. Then you choose death, Kaimin said. We choose freedom, Wanho replied simply. The transmission ended and Kaimin gave the order to attack. The Imperial fleet moved forward in standard formation, expecting to overwhelm the tiny human force within minutes. What happened next shocked him. The human ships didn't meet his fleet head-on as most species did. Instead, they scattered in all directions, moving faster than Kaimin had thought possible. Their acceleration curves suggested engine technology far more advanced than initial scans had indicated. Sir, the human vessels are maintaining combat speed of 0.7 light speed, his tactical officer reported. That's impossible with fusion drives. Before Kaimin could respond, the humans attacked. But instead of the desperate frontal assault he expected, they struck like lightning bolts. Small groups of human ships would appear from seemingly nowhere, target specific Imperial vessels with devastating accuracy, then vanish before the Valtharians could respond effectively. Lieutenant Hyajin aboard the human destroyer Resilience coordinated one such attack. Her ship and two others materialized from what the Valtharians thought was empty space, fired a barrage of weapons that punched through Imperial shields like they were paper, then disappeared again before return fire could reach them. How are they doing this? Kaimin demanded. Unknown, sir, came the reply. They appear to be using some form of advanced stealth technology. Our sensors can't track them effectively when they don't want to be seen. The battle continued for 6 hours. The humans fought like nothing Kaimin had ever encountered. They used the solar system itself as a weapon, hiding behind planets and asteroids, using gravity wells to accelerate to impossible speeds, even diving through the outer layers of the sun itself to avoid Imperial fire. One human ship, commanded by a pilot the Valtharians later learned was named Seokmin, actually flew through the gas clouds of Jupiter's upper atmosphere to escape pursuit. The Valtharian ships that followed were torn apart by the planet's gravity and radiation. But the humans were outnumbered nearly 7-1. Slowly, inevitably, their defensive line began to collapse. The Imperial fleet's superior numbers started to tell. One by one, human ships were destroyed or forced to retreat. Yet, even in defeat, the humans extracted a terrible price. Every Imperial ship that fell to human weapons took 2 or 3 human vessels with it, but the humans made every shot count. They targeted critical systems with surgical precision, turning mighty Valtharian battleships into floating scrap metal. Finally, Commodore One-Ho's flagship, battered and trailing atmosphere from multiple hull breaches, transmitted a final message. Admiral, Kaimin, we withdraw for now, but know this, today was just a test. You have seen only the smallest fraction of what humanity is capable of. The surviving human ships, fewer than a dozen, vanished into the outer system. They moved so fast and used such effective stealth that Kaimin's fleet couldn't pursue them. Kai-Min looked at his tactical display and felt sick. 39 Imperial ships destroyed, another 47 damaged so badly they would need months of repairs against 30 human vessels. Sir, his aide said quietly, shall I prepare the victory report for the Emperor? Kaimin almost laughed. Victory? They had driven off a force 1/7 their size and lost nearly 40 ships doing it. If this was victory, he never wanted to see defeat. Prepare the report, he said finally. Tell the Emperor that human resistance was stronger than expected, but that we have secured the outer system. Their main fleet has been defeated. It was technically true. The humans had withdrawn and the Imperial fleet controlled the space around their outer planets. But Kaimin knew it felt nothing like the crushing victories the Empire was used to. As his fleet regrouped and tended to its wounds, Kaimin found himself thinking about Commodore Wanho's final words. The human had said this was just a test. A test of what? His intelligence officers provided some answers over the following days. The human ships they had fought were identified as belonging to something called the Frontier Guard. According to intercepted communications, these were not even military vessels in the traditional sense. but rather a kind of space patrol force responsible for monitoring the edges of human territory. It's like being attacked by our own system. Patrol boats, his tactical officer observed. Except these patrol boats just destroyed a third of our fleet. Kaiman sent his report to Emperor Veltar, downplaying the losses and emphasizing that human resistance had been contained. But privately, he began to worry. If the humans' frontier patrol could inflict such damage, what would their actual military be capable of? The Emperor's response came quickly. Acceptable losses. Proceed with the conquest. The humans must learn that defying the Empire has consequences. As Kai Min prepared for the next phase of the campaign, he couldn't shake Wan Ho's words from his mind. If what they had faced was just a test, then what was the main event he would find out soon enough. And when he did, he would understand that the Empire had made a terrible mistake. They hadn't defeated the human military. They hadn't even met it yet. The real war was about to begin, and the Valtharian Empire was not prepared for what humanity would show them next. Admiral Kaimin had won his first battle against the humans, but in doing so, he had learned something that chilled him to his core. If this was what the humans' weakest forces could do, what horrors awaited when their real defenders took the field? Emperor Veltar stood in his throne room, studying the holographic display that showed the Sol system. The news from Admiral Kai Min's first engagement had been troubling. The humans had fought better than expected, inflicting unacceptable losses on Imperial forces. This could not be allowed to continue. Summon the Grand Fleet, the Emperor commanded. It is time to show these humans the true power of the Empire. Within days, ships began arriving from across Valtharian space. The Grand Fleet was the Empire's ultimate weapon, 800 warships that had never known defeat. These were not the standard vessels of the Third Fleet, but the Empire's most advanced and deadly ships. Massive dreadnoughts that could crack planets, carrier ships filled with fighter squadrons, siege vessels designed to reduce star systems to rubble. Emperor Veltar had used the Grand Fleet only 3 times in his reign, and each time it had ended with the complete destruction of enemy civilizations. The humans would learn why 47 species had chosen submission over facing this armada. Admiral Kai Min met the Grand Fleet at the rallying point outside human space. His surviving ships looked tiny beside the massive vessels commanded by Fleet Admiral Mordak, the Emperor's most trusted military commander. Mordak was a veteran of 20 conquest campaigns, a warrior who had never retreated from any battle. Admiral Kai Min, Mordak's voice rumbled through the communication system. Explain to me how 30 human patrol boats nearly destroyed your fleet. Kai Min felt his scales flush with embarrassment. Fleet Admiral, the humans fought unlike any enemy we have encountered. Their technology is more advanced than initial scans indicated. They use tactics we had never seen before. Tactics, Mordak said dismissively. Numbers and firepower decide battles, not clever tricks. Watch and learn how the Empire deals with rebellion. The Grand Fleet moved into the Sol system in perfect formation. 800 ships advancing like an unstoppable tide of destruction. Their combined firepower could sterilize entire continents. Their shields could withstand the energy output of small stars. At the edge of human space, they met resistance. 150 human ships rose to meet them. These vessels were larger than the frontier patrol boats Kai Min had faced, sleek and deadly-looking. Their hulls seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, giving them an ominous appearance against the stars. The human fleet was commanded by Admiral Taiwan aboard the battleship Determination. When Mordak demanded their surrender, Taiwan's response was simple: we decline. The battle that followed lasted 3 days and became known in Imperial history as the Burning of Sol. The humans fought with a ferocity that shocked even the veteran warriors of the Grand Fleet. Their ships moved like living things, flowing through space in patterns that seemed impossible. They used gravity itself as a weapon, bending space-time to create tactical advantages no Valtharian had ever conceived. Captain Bora, commanding the heavy cruiser Determination, held off an entire Imperial battle group single-handedly for over 6 hours. Her ship danced between asteroids, using the debris field like a maze, emerging to strike devastating blows before vanishing again. When 3 Imperial dreadnoughts finally cornered her, she rammed one of them at near light speed, destroying all 4 ships in the explosion that lit up half the system. The humans had new weapons too. Energy beams that could penetrate any known shield technology. Missiles that seemed to think for themselves, dodging defensive fire and striking with perfect accuracy. Most terrifying of all were weapons that seemed to eat matter itself, leaving holes in Imperial ships where armor and weapons used to be. Engineer Seok Jin, aboard the human flagship, performed miracles of real-time adaptation. As the battle progressed, human weapons became more effective against Imperial shields. Human defenses grew stronger against Imperial attacks. It was as if the humans were learning and evolving in the middle of combat. How are they doing this? Mordak demanded of his science officers. Unknown, Fleet Admiral. They appear to have adaptive technology that modifies itself based on battlefield conditions. We have never encountered anything like it. On the second day of fighting, something happened that shook the Imperial fleet to its core. A group of human ships, led by Commander Min Su aboard the destroyer Swift Justice, executed what became known as the impossible maneuver. Surrounded by Imperial forces and apparently doomed, the human ships suddenly accelerated to speeds that physics said were impossible. They didn't just break the light barrier, they shattered it. The human vessels moved so fast that they seemed to be in multiple places at once, striking Imperial ships throughout the battle zone simultaneously. When the maneuver was complete, 47 Imperial vessels had been destroyed in less than 30 seconds. The surviving human ships had vanished, only to reappear on the far side of the battle zone, ready to continue fighting. That's impossible, Mordak whispered. Nothing can move that fast. The humans apparently disagree, his tactical officer replied grimly. By the third day, both fleets were exhausted. The Grand Fleet had lost nearly 300 ships, while human losses stood at about 60 vessels. But the humans began executing what appeared to be a fighting retreat, pulling back toward the inner system in apparent disorder. More quote, Dak saw his chance. All ships pursue. Don't let them regroup. The Imperial fleet surged forward, chasing the retreating humans deeper into the Sol system. It seemed like the moment of final victory was at hand. Only later would Mordak realize that the human retreat had been anything but chaotic. Every movement had been carefully planned. The humans had drawn the Grand Fleet exactly where they wanted it. As the Imperial ships reached the orbit of Mars, the humans sprang their trap. Hidden weapons platforms throughout the inner system came online simultaneously. Massive defense stations that had been invisible to Imperial sensors suddenly appeared, their stealth fields dropping to reveal weapons of unimaginable power. The crossfire was devastating. Imperial ships found themselves caught between the retreating human fleet and these hidden fortresses. Energy beams that could core a dreadnought swept through their formations. Weapons that created miniature black holes tore ships apart at the molecular level. Admiral Taewan's voice echoed across all communication channels. This is human space, and you are not welcome here. The battle turned into a massacre. Imperial ships that had conquered star systems were reduced to scrap metal in seconds. The pride of the Valtharian military died in the cold darkness between worlds, their crews never understanding what had hit them. More quote, Dak, his own flagship crippled, and bleeding atmosphere finally gave the order to retreat. Less than 500 ships of his original 800 managed to escape the Sol system. The Grand Fleet, undefeated for 3 centuries, limped home in disgrace. Emperor Veltar received the news in stunned silence. The Grand Fleet, his ultimate weapon, had been broken by a human force less than 1/5 its size. It was impossible. It was unthinkable. It was catastrophic. How? Was all he could say. More quote, Dak, his voice hollow with defeat, could only repeat what his intelligence officers had discovered. The humans we fought belonged to something called the Territorial Defense Force. According to our analysis of their communications, this is their system militia, not their regular military. The Emperor felt his world crack around him. System militia. They had sent the Grand Fleet against the human equivalent of local police and lost. What is their regular military like? He asked, dreading the answer. Unknown, Your Imperial Majesty. We have never encountered it. Emperor Veltar stared at the tactical display showing the broken remains of his grand fleet. For the first time in his long reign, he felt genuine fear. If the humans could do this with their local defense forces, what would their actual military be capable of? He was about to find out. And when he did, he would understand the true meaning of the word terror. Emperor Veltar sat alone in his private chambers, staring at reports that made no sense. The Grand Fleet, his ultimate weapon, had been shattered by what the humans called their local defense forces. Every tactical analysis led to the same, impossible conclusion. The Empire was losing a war against an enemy they had never truly fought. The political situation was becoming desperate. News of the Grand Fleet's defeat had leaked throughout Imperial space. 3 systems had already declared independence. Others were questioning whether the Empire was strong enough to protect them. If this continued, the Valtharian Empire would collapse from within. There was only one option left: total commitment. Every ship, every weapon, every resource the Empire possessed would be thrown at humanity. Either the humans would be crushed completely or the Empire itself would fall. Summon all system governors, Veltar commanded. Order total mobilization. Every ship that can fly, every weapon that can fire. Strip the defenses from every world, if necessary. This ends now. The response was immediate and massive. From 47 star systems, ships began converging on the Sol system. Military vessels, armed merchant ships, planetary defense craft, even converted civilian transports mounting weapon systems. The Empire had never assembled such a fleet. 1,300 warships. It was everything the Valtharians had, their entire military might concentrated in one unstoppable armada. At its heart was the Eternal Dominion, a dreadnought so massive it had its own gravitational field. This ship alone carried more firepower than some entire fleets. Emperor Veltar himself took command, determined to personally oversee humanity's destruction. As the Imperial Armada approached the Sol system, he felt confident that no force in the galaxy could stand against such overwhelming power. The humans were waiting for them. What emerged from the depths of space to meet the Imperial Armada was beyond anything the Valtharians had imagined. 400 human ships, but these were not the vessels they had faced before. These were warships that seemed to have been built by gods. Admiral Jin Wu commanded this force from the flagship Humanities. Will, a vessel that dwarfed even the Eternal Dominion. The human ships were works of art as much as instruments of war, their hulls gleaming with materials that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "This is Admiral Jin Wu of the Human Rapid Response Fleet," came the transmission. "You have invaded our space, attacked our people, and threatened our freedom. You will withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Emperor Veltar looked at the 400 ships facing his 1,300 and almost laughed. The humans were brave, he would give them that, but they were still outnumbered more than 3 to 1. "I am Emperor Veltar of the Valtharian Empire," he replied. "Surrender now and I will grant your species the mercy of slavery. Continue to resist and I will see your entire civilization turn to ash." Jin Wu's response was calm and final. "Emperor, you have made a grave error. You mistake our patience for weakness. Allow me to correct that misunderstanding." The battle that followed would be remembered as the War of Impossibilities. The human ships moved like they were alive, flowing through space in formations that defied physics. Captain So Young's battleship Humanity's Will demonstrated weapons that the Valtharians thought belonged only in nightmares. Singularity cannons that created black holes on command. Reality anchor mines that froze sections of space-time itself. Shields that existed in 11 dimensions, making the ships effectively impossible to target. Commander Minsu coordinated fleet movements with precision that seemed inhuman until the Valtharians realized it wasn't superhuman at all. It was simply human tactical doctrine perfected over centuries of warfare. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship would be at any given moment. The human fleet moved like a single organism with 400 deadly parts. The Imperial ships fought desperately, but they might as well have been throwing rocks at the stars. Human weapons tore through Imperial shields like they were made of paper. Entire squadrons of Valtharian vessels simply vanished, deleted from existence by weapons that rewrote the laws of physics. Engineer Hyejin, aboard the human cruiser. Scientific method deployed something the humans called quantum torpedoes. These weapons didn't just destroy ships. They made it so the ships had never existed in the first place. Valtharian vessels would simply fade from reality, leaving their crews with no memory of what they had been fighting. The Eternal Dominion itself, pride of the Imperial fleet, found itself facing 3 human ships that should have been destroyed by its massive guns within seconds. Instead, Captain Dongsu's destroyer mathematical proof somehow absorbed the dreadnought's entire energy output and redirected it back as a focused beam that cut the mighty ship in half. How is this possible? Emperor Veltar screamed as his flagship died around him. The answer came from Admiral Jin Wu himself. Emperor, you attacked a species that has spent 1,000 years preparing for exactly this moment. Every weapon you have, we have countermeasures for. Every tactic you know, we have defenses against. You brought conventional weapons to fight unconventional minds. As the battle raged, sections of space became uninhabitable. Exotic weapons tore holes in reality itself. Entire regions of the solar system became zones where the laws of physics simply didn't work anymore. Stars flickered as weapons drew energy directly from their cores. Captain Siakho's ship, inevitable conclusion, deployed something the humans called a causality bomb. The weapon traveled backward through time to destroy Imperial ships before they could fire their weapons. From the Valtharian perspective, their own vessels began exploding for no reason, their weapons failing before they could be used. The slaughter continued for 18 hours. When it finally ended, fewer than 100 Imperial ships remained from the original 1,300. They fled in complete disorder, their crews broken and traumatized by weapons and tactics beyond their comprehension. Emperor Veltar, rescued from his dying flagship by one of the few surviving escort vessels, could only watch as his empire's military might was scattered to the winds. The political implications were immediate and catastrophic. Without the fleet to maintain order, the empire would fragment within months. In desperation, he sent a message to Earth. We surrender. Please, no more. We surrender unconditionally. The human response came from Admiral Jin Wu. Emperor, we accept your surrender. However, you should understand something. What you faced today was not our main military force. You fought our rapid response fleet, our equivalent of emergency services. Our actual military has not yet been deployed. The words hit Emperor Veltar like a physical blow. Emergency services. They had thrown everything they had against the human equivalent of disaster relief and been annihilated. What is your main military like? He asked, though he dreaded the answer. Jin-Wu-S response was quiet and final. Emperor, pray you never find out. The rapid response fleet is designed to help people. Our core fleet is designed for war. You have seen mercy. You do not want to see justice. As the broken remnants of the Imperial fleet limped home, Emperor Veltar understood that his empire was finished. But more than that, he understood something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The humans had been holding back. Everything they had faced, every impossible weapon and tactic had been the humans being gentle. They had never seen humanity's true military might, and if Admiral Jin Wu was telling the truth, they never wanted to. The Valtharian Empire had declared war on a species that considered their most devastating fleet action to be a police response. What would happen if the humans ever decided to truly fight? Emperor Veltar hoped he would never learn the answer to that question. The diplomatic ship Last Hope carried the remnants of Valtharian leadership toward Earth. Emperor Veltar, reduced from ruler of 47 systems to commander of a handful of broken vessels, stared through the viewports at the approaching human fleet. The escort ships were beautiful in a way that made his heart ache. Sleek vessels that moved with liquid grace, their hulls seeming to shift and flow like living metal. Their commander, Captain Hyun Woo, had been nothing but courteous during their journey. treating the defeated Valtharians with respectful efficiency. "Captain," Admiral Kai Min asked during their final approach to Earth, "these escort ships, what class are they?" Hyunwoo looked puzzled by the question. "Traffic Control Division, Admiral. They manage movement through human space, make sure civilian ships don't collide, that sort of thing." Kai Min stared at the human officer. "Traffic control. The ships escorting them, each one more advanced than anything in the Imperial fleet, were essentially space traffic police." "Captain Hyunwoo," Emperor Veltar said carefully, "we have fought your frontier guard, your territorial defense, and your rapid response fleet. Could you explain your military structure?" "Of course, Your Imperial Majesty." Hyunwoo activated a holographic display showing human organizational charts. "The Frontier Guard handles first contact with new species and monitors our borders. Think of them as diplomatic services with basic security training." Veltar felt sick. Basic security training. The force that had bloodied Admiral Kai Min's fleet was barely considered military. "The territorial defense protects our colonies and trade routes," Hyunwoo continued. "They're civilian volunteers mostly. Local militia who train on weekends and respond to emergencies. Civilian volunteers. Weekend warriors. The force that had shattered the Grand Fleet. The Rapid Response Fleet handles serious external threats. There are emergency services, trained to respond quickly to disasters, accidents, or unexpected problems. Emergency services. The force that had annihilated everything the Empire could muster was the human equivalent of firefighters and paramedics." "What about your actual military?" Veltar asked, though he dreaded the answer. Hyun-Woo Quota's expression grew serious. "Your Imperial Majesty, you never fought our military. You fought civil services. Our actual military is different." Through the viewports, Earth grew larger. And as it did, the Valtharians began to see the truth. Ships. Thousands upon thousands of them. Vessels that made the Rapid Response Fleet look like children's toys. The space around Earth was filled with warships so massive they had their own weather systems, so advanced they seemed to bend reality around them. "The core fleet," Hyunwoo said quietly. Captain Yoonji's voice came over the communication system from the dreadnought Sol's Fury. "Welcome to Earth, Emperor Veltar. I am Captain Yoonji. This ship and I will be your guides for the remainder of your visit." The Sol's Fury was impossible. It was larger than most space stations, bristling with weapons that hurt to look at directly. Its hull seemed to exist in several dimensions at once, and energy patterns flowed across its surface like living lightning. "Captain Yoonji," Veltar managed, "what class of vessel is the Sol's Fury?" "She's a standard patrol cruiser, Your Imperial Majesty, part of the Inner System Defense Network. Standard patrol cruiser. The ship that could have destroyed his entire original fleet single-handedly was considered routine. As their diplomatic vessel was guided through the human fleet, the Valtharians saw wonders and terrors beyond their comprehension. Ships that were bigger than moons, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Vessels that seemed to be built from crystallized starlight, their hulls pulsing with energies that made space itself ripple. Entire artificial worlds that were apparently mobile weapons platforms. "How many ships do you have?" Admiral Kai Min whispered. "In the core fleet, about 40,000 active vessels," Hyunwoo replied casually. "Plus another 100,000 in reserve. And that's just Earth's defensive fleet. Each of our major colonies has similar forces." Each colony. The humans had hundreds of worlds, each one protected by fleets that dwarfed anything the Empire had ever assembled. "Why?" Veltar asked. "Why build such massive forces?" Captain Yoonji's voice answered from the Sol's Fury. "Your Imperial Majesty, humanity learned long ago that the galaxy is a dangerous place. We build our defenses to ensure that no threat, no matter how large, can endanger our people. But the size of your fleets, it's enormous. Who were you expecting to fight?" Yoonji's response chilled them to their bones. "Everyone, Your Imperial Majesty. We prepared to fight everyone at once if necessary." As they descended toward Earth, more impossible sights met their eyes. Orbital habitats that housed billions of humans. Manufacturing centers that produced ships at a rate of dozens per day. weapons testing facilities that made suns flicker when they fired. The truth is, Emperor, Hyunwoo said gently, humanity has been expecting this war for centuries, not with you specifically, but with someone. We knew that eventually some aggressive species would try to conquer us. So we prepared. For centuries? Yes, Your Imperial Majesty. We have been building, planning, and preparing for large-scale, interstellar warfare for over 800 years. Every human world contributes to our military preparedness. Every citizen knows their role in planetary defense. Admiral Kaiman looked at the display showing Earth's population centers. 6 billion humans. And according to the data Hyunwoo was sharing, similar populations on hundreds of other worlds. Trillions of humans, all organized around a defensive doctrine that made the Empire's military planning look like children playing with toys. Captain Hyunwoo, Veltar said, when we fought your forces, were you holding back? The human officer was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he said, Your Imperial Majesty, our standing orders for all external conflicts are to use minimum necessary force. The Frontier Guard was instructed to discourage you from attacking. The Territorial Defense was ordered to convince you that resistance was futile. The Rapid Response Fleet was directed to end the threat while minimizing casualties, on both sides. And if those had failed? If we had somehow defeated your Rapid Response Fleet? Captain Yoonji answered from the Soul's Fury. Then the core fleet would have ended the war in approximately 6 hours. We would have felt very bad about it afterward, but the war would have been over. The cold certainty in her voice left no doubt that she was telling the truth. The core fleet, these impossible vessels surrounding them, could have ended the conflict at any time. The humans had chosen to fight with their weakest forces first, hoping to avoid the wholesale slaughter that their main fleet would have delivered. You were being merciful, Veltar realized. Yes, Your Imperial Majesty. We hoped you would see reason before we were forced to use our full capabilities. As their ship landed at Earth's primary spaceport, Emperor Veltar understood the true scope of his mistake. The Valtharian Empire had declared war on a species that had spent nearly a millennium preparing for exactly that scenario. They had brought swords to fight opponents who had built weapons that could unmake reality itself. More than that, they had mistaken mercy for weakness. Every human force they had fought had been trying to minimize casualties, hoping to end the war without complete destruction. The humans had been attempting to save Valtharian lives even while defending themselves. Captain Hyunwoo, Veltar said as they prepared to disembark, what will happen to my people now? That depends on you, Your Imperial Majesty. We hope to establish peaceful relations with all Valtharian worlds. We have no desire to rule over others. We simply want to ensure that no one threatens human lives again. And if other species attack, you in the future. Hyunwoo's smile was gentle but held depths that made Veltar's blood run cold. Your Imperial Majesty, your war with humanity will serve as an example to the galaxy. Word is already spreading about what happened to the Empire's fleets. Most species will choose to pursue peaceful contact rather than military conquest. And those that don't? They will learn the same lesson you did. The difference is, next time, we might not be as patient. As Emperor Veltar stepped onto Earth's surface, he understood that he had witnessed the birth of a new age. Humanity had revealed itself as the galaxy's dominant military power, but they had done so with restraint and mercy. They could have wiped out every Valtharian world, but instead they offered peace. His empire was broken, his fleet scattered, his people facing an uncertain future. But they were alive, and that was more than many species could say after challenging humanity's patience. The galaxy would remember the lesson of the Valtharian Empire. Humanity had not used their core fleet because they had not needed to. They had won a war against a galactic power using nothing more than their civilian services and emergency responders. And every species in the galaxy would ask themselves the same question that haunted Emperor Veltar's dreams. If that was humanity, showing restraint, what would happen to anyone foolish enough to make them truly angry? The answer, thankfully, remained unknown, and humanity intended to keep it that way.